Welcome to Costly Conversations. Thank you so much for joining us. I have the one and only Talon Sei with us today. What's going on, man?
Not much, man. Just excited to be here. Excited to chat, man. It's been a while.
Yes, sir. Man, what was it, back in November over at Epic Shoot? We linked up.
Yeah, like early November, I think last year.
Yeah, man. Well, I definitely appreciate the conversation. It's interesting because you're somebody that when I was first getting into firearms, I watched. So it's kind of interesting that you get to meet the people that you've come to admire in the space, and you're kind of watching your journey from kind of getting started in firearms to getting the deals and sponsorships to creating a limited edition Talon Sei. Was it a Glock 43? Am I right?
Yeah, we did a 43X and just 43X. Recently a 19. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do want to talk about that because that's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure.
So all that, and just being somebody who's watched you, I have a ton of questions, and I'm guessing there's going to be some people who do want to hear from you, being that you've kind of been living the dream, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I'm down to answer whatever you got, man.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, if we just want to kind of start at the beginning, like, how did you even get started in this thing, man?
I started making YouTube videos back, I think I'm on my 6th year on YouTube now, full-time for about 3 years. And I was just consuming a ton of YouTube. I was an IT consultant at the time, traveling around city to city, and I was consuming so much YouTube. I already knew how to run a camera. So I was like, I'm going to buy a point and shoot camera. I just got like actually, I still got it on my shelf over here in my office. Bought a camera, bought a computer, and I just started vlogging, like exploring the cities that I was in, hanging out with friends, partying. And then it slowly evolved into, instead of getting into one specific niche, like just firearms, I covered whatever I was into: electric skateboards, vehicles, some tech reviews and stuff like that. And it just started growing slowly until you get that snowball rolling. And then next thing you know, 3 years into it, I decided to quit my job and do it full time. So I've been doing it full time ever since.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's a lot of dudes who get on YouTube and they try and they have a channel for years and years and years and it really doesn't go anywhere. In a sense, you're like kind of like a figurative like one percenter, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like how does that feel, bro? Like you made it.
Yeah, it's kind of unreal. Like when I take a step back and just like look at what I've been able to do over the past 5 years or so, like I never planned on doing it full time. I never planned on, I didn't even know you could really make money doing it, like with AdSense initially and then sponsorships and stuff like that. So it's, to this day, it's still a learning experience. There's so much to learn and you always have to be adapting to changes. And I'm just super thankful that I have an audience that is into all the stuff that I'm into. And yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. So just to recap for maybe those who are being introduced to you, Talon Sei for the first time, I know you pretty well. I feel like, just with minor celebrities, influencers, YouTubers and whatnot, you feel like you can get to know them. You feel like you see their personality. And I'm sure there's a certain amount of that you have to kind of like clean up and put forth on the camera. But how much of that is you? And let's talk about you a little bit.
Yeah. So I was in the same position as you. Like I looked up to a lot of different like bigger YouTube channels, and then I got to meet them in person. And I would say a majority of people are pretty similar off camera as they are on camera. And I think you even mentioned that when we first met at that shoot down in Georgia. I put so much of my life out on the internet, just like random stuff, everything that I do. So a lot of people who watch that stuff, they feel like they know me when they meet me. And like, I don't play a persona on the internet. I'm just like, what you see is what you get. So yeah, it's, I don't know. It's interesting when you come across people like that because, I mean, if you watch any of my videos, like it's basically cut and dry, pretty simple. Like what you see is what you get. So if you watch anything, you already know who I am.
Yeah, man. That's I think there's some realness there. Just even in my own situation, making videos, starting to make a bigger variety of videos, it's like, how much of the persona do you really want to put on? How cool is too cool, and how much of it is really you? And
Yeah.
you know,
I think putting on a persona would be like draining. Like I couldn't keep up with that. I have met other creators out there who like turn it on for the camera and they're like very different than when you meet them in person. And that to me would just be draining. Like when I turn my camera on, I'm as real as it gets. Like it, I don't know. I don't know how people do that.
yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I feel like I suppose people have like different gears and they can just kind of like crank it up to 100.
Yeah.
I can name a few people, but I'll leave that for another day.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Let's not start fights. But let's talk about you a little bit because I know you said you got into firearms. You were doing travel vlogging and
Mhm.
vlogging at first, and you got into the firearm space, got into some of the adventure, recreation, outdoor space, and that's kind of where you live now.
Yeah, yeah, I'm definitely more in that space just because of all the changes that YouTube has gone through. But I initially got into firearms just because I grew up in a pretty big hunting family. So I was hunting in eastern Pennsylvania from basically as soon as I could get my hunter safety course and get everything that I needed to hunt. And then I wasn't like super interested in guns until I could start buying handguns. So when I turned 21, I went out, bought my first handgun, and that's still some of my favorite stuff to shoot today. I mean, I love all guns, but I really enjoy shooting handguns and pistols. So early on in my channel, I did like an about me. It was one of the probably the first 5 videos that I posted. And I was just going like rattling off my hobbies. Like I'm into ABC, XYZ. And then in that video, I mentioned, I was like, I'm into firearms, but I don't know who would even watch gun videos and stuff like that. Like, I knew there were some gun channels out there, but it was all like tabletop reviews, kind of boring. And I was like, I could do that stuff, but I don't know if anyone would watch that. So
Yeah,
eventually, when I did start making videos about firearms, I put my own vlog aspect onto it. So I was putting music in my videos. I was doing B-roll and basically like what you think of when you think of gun videos today. That's how a lot of people are doing it because it's just easier to consume. More people will watch it. And I think it caters to an audience that is also outside of the firearms industry. So instead of just like being hardo military police law enforcement like doing everything by the book, I take a very laid back approach to everything. And I think I've gotten a ton of people who were never exposed to firearms before. I think I got a lot of people into it, and I mean it shows. All the DMs, comments, emails that I get, I'm just happy that my videos have helped people kind of join our side.
yeah, no, definitely, and I think we should all be thankful in a sense, but kind of look to the model because the way you've done it is, I think, kind of like an industry standard in a sense, not just for the firearms industry, but for YouTubing and content creation and showing your work.
Yeah.
It's kind of a standard. Obviously, you go to different genres in social media and things change up a little bit, especially now with the super short form content with Instagram and the
Yeah.
TikToks of the world. But definitely, you definitely have influenced me in the way that I approach making content and the type of shots that I look to get when I'm doing a gun video per
Well,
se.
thanks, man. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, man. I mean, if it's quality, people recognize it and people want to emulate it, and I think you should be proud of that. But let's talk a little bit about um, Sunday Gunday, kind of, because you did firearm stuff in your Stuff and Things
Yep.
segment for your show on YouTube, and then kind of switched over to Stuff and Things Sunday Gunday, and then it became its own channel.
Yeah. So this is a story we could talk about for like 2 hours, but for a quick synopsis of everything, guns have always been a part of my life. Like I said, I grew up hunting and I've just always been around them. And then once I started taking it on as more of like a hobby, just recreational shooting, that's when I started making more videos. So I showed a few firearms in like earlier videos, and then people really enjoyed it. So I was like, how about I just make like a segment of my channel where every Sunday I post something about guns, whether it's an actual gun review, ammo, some type of gear, like whatever it may be. I'm just going to focus. Sundays are for gun stuff. So I use the term Sunday Gunday, and it it some of the videos like took off exponentially. Some of my biggest videos early on were gun videos, and they're no longer there because let's see, it's probably like a year or 2 years into making videos and having Sunday Gunday as like a standalone thing on my channel, and I got hit by YouTube. They changed a bunch of policies. I had some videos up about like how to build polymer 80s and stuff like that, and I understand why they don't want people showing that. So that was some of the first stuff that I took down, and then I think it was October. It was right after I went full time on YouTube. I think it was October of 2018. I woke up one day to an email that said, "You're no longer eligible for the partner program," which means I can't monetize my videos, which meant I can't make money from YouTube. And also, it basically like cuts the head off your channel. So your videos aren't going to be recommended. The reach just goes down, views, comments, engagement overall just completely like falls off. So I had to think real fast. I was like, I could pick at straws and start pulling videos until I figure out what the actual issue is, because obviously YouTube won't tell you like it's this video. All they would have had to say is we don't like this video, take that one down, and everything would have been normal. But that's not how it works. So I decided to take all of the gun stuff, move it to a channel of its own to sort of future proof my current channel, just Talon Sei, and then kind of have that in its own segment. That way, if there are any more issues, it'll just be in that pile as opposed to across everything. So that happened. I deleted like 100 videos, close to 30 million views worth of videos on my channel. And that was
Mm.
tough, man. Like one of the hardest decisions I ever had to make. Like I was up for probably like
30
3 days
million
straight.
views.
Yeah, like it was a lot of work that I
Like
put in.
that must have like just crushed you.
Like I said, man, I was up for like probably 2, 3 days straight, just like not being able to sleep, just like racking my brain. Like, is this the right decision? I have no idea. And I was talking to other like fellow creators, and no one, it was right at the time when like the whole adpocalypse thing on YouTube was happening. So no one had any good options. So I was kind of doing it on my own. Like I'm taking information from a lot of different people, but in the end, it was just something that I had to make a decision on myself. So removed all those videos from my main channel, started Sunday Gunday, made a video on my main channel saying, "Hey, this is the state of things right now. Like I'm to continue to do this full time, I have to separate stuff, or I'm gonna have to go back to work in a normal job, and videos are not going to be as frequent." So started Sunday Gunday, grew pretty well. And then just, I think last year sometime, I got pulled from the partner program again. And I wasn't doing any gun videos or anything on my main channel. My main channel is primary source of income. Sunday
Yeah.
Gunday channel makes me little to no money. And if anything, I lose money making those videos just because I'm buying guns, ammo, the range time. Like it's so time consuming making gun videos as opposed to the stuff that I'm truly into now is like just outdoor stuff,
Hmm.
hiking, mountain biking, motorcycles. Like that stuff is very easy and little to no money cost going into that. So my main channel got hit again. It was just a fault on YouTube. I got the issue resolved pretty quickly that time. So now I'm just like things have kind of leveled out, and I'm posting 3 videos a week on my main channel and every other week on Sunday Gunday just to space things out a little bit. That way my life ain't so hectic and I'm not spending tons and tons of money and time and effort on the gun stuff. So some
There's no
people,
way you can make 3 videos a week on a main channel and have another video every single Sunday on a second channel. 4 videos a week.
yeah.
Are you doing
So
all the editing yourself, or do you outsource that now?
dude, everything is all me right here in my office, like film. edit, do emails, phone calls. I do everything myself, start to finish.
The
So
man's a machine.
it's a ton of work. Yeah. I've streamlined my editing process over the years of doing it. So I can edit videos pretty dang quick. Um, I actually have a ton of editing in front of me right now for some future Sunday Gunday videos. And I'm pretty happy with the balance right now. I don't like the main thing with growing on YouTube is being consistent.
Yeah.
So when I started making videos, I challenged myself to make one video a week for an entire year, sink or swim. Like I was just going to do that. And it ended up paying off. And now I'm at a point where I'm posting 3 videos a week on my main channel, every other on my Sunday Gunday channel. And it's a hell of a lot of work, but it's work that I love to do. Like I love editing, I love filming, and I'm doing a lot of cool shit while I'm doing all that at the same time.
That's
So
right.
it's definitely looked at as like a dream job by a lot of people, but also they don't see the desk time and like everything else that goes into
Mhm.
it. They see a snippet of a day and they're like, "Oh wow, that's must be nice. It's so cool to do all that stuff."
I
But
mean, not even just to mention going to certain locations, the travel that goes into it. Are you editing while you travel? That kind of crap.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I right now I'm talking to you on my just my laptop, and I still continue to edit on a laptop just because instead of having like a desk office PC, I got to have everything mobile. So this computer is like my lifeline for everything. This thing breaks right now. I'm driving to the local Best Buy and I'm buying a new one immediately because I need to keep going. He's got to keep it rolling.
Okay, so you started side productions. When was that?
I started that in at the start of 2020
Why?
going into 2021. I started that as sort of like an umbrella company. I was doing everything as a sole proprietor. So this is really getting into like the business side of things. Once
Sure.
you decide to create content full time, it is very much a business. And for a while there, I was just kind of dipping my hands in everything to make money and continue making content. And it got to a point where like I realized like this is a legit business. I need to basically legitimize it. So I started Side Productions as like an umbrella company that encompasses everything that I do between all the vehicle stuff, Sunday Gundays in there. I haven't had my own podcast, have my own podcast. I don't post on it very often because that's another super time consuming thing. But um, yeah, I basically just started this company to be the overarching company where I do all of my business through. So I got my emails, I got all my books and accounting and everything set up through it. It just basically streamlines and legitimizes everything that I'm doing.
Now, I've heard from certain content creators who, especially like the YouTube education guys. I don't know how much you tap in with those guys.
I did a little
Um,
bit early on.
they, at least one of them was kind of complaining that when he goes to the bank for a loan, I think he just recently bought a home, that they looked at his financials and basically laughed at him because he was a YouTuber, even though he was making serious money year after year for the last several years. Like he has the receipts, but because of the title, like YouTuber,
Mm.
they didn't take him seriously. Did you run into that issue early on as just a sole proprietor, and Side Productions has helped with that, or like what's the deal? Can you give us that
So
inside baseball?
yeah, the idea behind Side Productions was basically to legitimize stuff like along those lines. I whenever I'm doing something that requires like big financial loans and stuff like that, like I mean, this house that I'm in, we built this starting last year, moved in over the summer. It was not, I don't want to say it was difficult to do, but I went back and forth with like we'll call him the loan officer a million times, like because they don't understand. Like I don't say I'm a YouTuber. I'm basically just saying like I am self-employed and I own my own business. And they're like, oh, what kind of business is it? Well, it's media and marketing, it's video production, and that is a little bit easier for people to grasp than I'm a YouTuber. So that was one of the main ideas behind it too. Early on, before I had Side Productions, one of the biggest purchases that I made was my van, which I lived in for like 2.5 years, which I still have.
Yeah, that was a
Um,
big part of your YouTube was the van life, the sat van.
Yeah, yeah, and still is. Like I love traveling, and that will always be a big part of like my main channel content. And buying that was difficult because I'll never make a big purchase like that if I can't pay for a majority of it in cash. Like I like to save money. Everyone thinks like seeing what YouTubers do, they're like, oh, you're so rich and you spend a ton of money. And it's really not like that. Like I'm pretty
Mm.
conservative when it comes to spending money. I was saving to buy a house at the time. So I had a bunch of money saved. And then I decided that I wanted to buy a van and live on the road and explore the country. So when I went to get a loan, rather than paying for it outright in cash, they were asking a million questions. They're like, you can afford this, but how? Like, this has to make sense. So I'm sending them all sorts of documents and 1099s and tax information and stuff like that. So it was a little bit difficult, but I don't make big purchases like that often. So,
Right.
um,
I mean, I haven't seen your Lamborghini video yet, so
yeah, you
you
won't
know.
see that anytime soon. I'll tell you
All right.
that.
Hey
It'd be
man. Well,
nice though.
that's now you have all that. You've done some cool stuff, man. Like it's been really cool to watch, and hearing the background of like, okay, getting the van and how much trouble they gave you. Um, that is interesting, especially considering you have a track record. You've been doing this.
Mhm.
Now let's talk a little bit about the let's go back for a second because I know you said you split your YouTube channel into two.
Mhm.
Sunday Gunday, the YouTube channel, and then of course the Talon Sei YouTube channel, where you show us all the cool lifestyle stuff. With the firearms channel splitting off, and obviously you don't have the same subscriber count, you're not going to get the same views as you were in your heyday.
Mhm.
Do you feel like that killed your relationship with the 2A industry?
I don't think it killed my relationship. However, it definitely shifted my own personal focus,
Mm,
because I was going through that time where like I was helping out a ton of companies, and none of my videos for the longest time were sponsored. So like I wasn't getting paid like anything for most of those videos.
really?
People would send a gun for me to review that I could keep, but one, that's not going to change my opinion on what I'm going to say about the gun. So if it sucks, it sucks. And at the same time, I was buying guns too, just to continue making content. I think it sort of disconnected me from a lot of people who only consume firearm content. And those people I don't really see eye to eye with anyway, just because like there's some people that I meet who are straight up gun nuts. People would consider me a gun nut, and I love firearms, but I love a lot of other things too.
Right.
And I run across people like this past summer, I've been going to like overland expos and showing my vehicles and stuff. And I ran into a few different people who were like, "Oh yeah, like I used to watch your videos all the time. I love all the Sunday Gunday videos and stuff like that, but I know you don't make that stuff anymore." And I'm like, "No, I continually upload. Like I have a full channel dedicated for it. It has like at the time I think it had like 175,000 subscribers. I was like, I still do that
That's
stuff.
pretty
You
good. I mean, those numbers are pretty nice.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of people did transfer over, but then there's other people like that who I've met in person who basically look at me like I turned my back on the
Right.
firearm community. They're
Right.
like taking it
Trader.
to the extreme, like, "Oh, you're liberal now? Like you don't like." I'm like, "What? No, man."
Stop.
So I'm
You
like,
liberal.
yeah, like I still do a ton for the Second Amendment community,
Yeah, I mean,
firearms
shoot,
industry
you
in
showed up to
general.
the event I was at. I mean, clearly you're not going to just show up if you're not into the stuff. Like,
Right,
would you come for
right.
the free food? Like, come on.
Yeah, so I don't want to say I'm disconnected from the firearms industry. There is some kind of I don't want to call it resentment, but there are a lot of companies that I helped out early on with no compensation. Like I'm just like showing their products and things like that, and I'm not expecting anything from them. But when I went through all of that and I had to move my content somewhere else, they kind of like were just like, "Oh, that's it. He doesn't do gun stuff anymore." And that kind of
Wow.
hurts because
Yeah.
it's not every company. There's still a lot of companies that I work with now who are super cool. They love what I do. They love both aspects, like my lifestyle channel and then the gun channel too. And with the way things in the firearms industry is going, there's a lot of companies who like that even more because they're trying to take their brand and incorporate more lifestyle stuff into it because of censorship and everything that's going on. So I feel like I'm a pretty good asset for them to showcase how a company is not entirely firearm specific and then make other products too, or how they can just integrate outside of the firearms world. So
So since we're on the topic of firearms, as we have been for the duration of this conversation, for real, let's speak directly to the gun company who maybe you don't see eye to eye with in regards to how they're doing things and their lack of support for you when you were going through what you were going through. How would you, if you could change their mind on something or help them to see the light, how would you frame that to them? How would you speak to them?
so I'm not one to sell myself to companies. Like I very rarely reach out to companies asking for products for reviews. Um, I guess what I would say is that my content is still the same, if not better, now that it's in its own specific thing. Like I'll do stuff and say things on my gun related channel that I may not have done quite the same when everything was mixed in, just because I'm trying to keep my channel alive, my main channel. So I guess I would just say that like my videos are the same, if not better. And um, like I said, like I bring something very different to the table. There's a lot of new channels out there who are making great content too, but I'm not going to go out of my way to sell myself to a company. Like if you see the value in what I do, cool, let's talk. If not, then that's fine. I'll just let it go to the wayside. Like I don't need to make gun videos. I enjoy it and I still do make videos and I want to make videos, but I'm not going to go out of my way to try to like sell myself to a company if they don't see the value themselves.
That's understandable. Now, what would you say to them in regards to how they view content creators in general? Because obviously, at one point, you were kind of still new to the game.
Yeah. So like what would I say to them to
More specifically, regarding, I know you said a lot of companies didn't sponsor you like at all. Like they would just send you a gun and say like, "Hey, man, here's a gun.
yeah.
Please review it." Maybe.
So I
Like,
guess
is that
the
cool? Like, how would you prefer to be interacted with in regards to if you had to do this whole thing over again?
so now that I have a company, it legitimizes things even more to a point where like and I'm sure you know anyone who makes videos knows me loading up my vehicle with ammo, guns, products to review, driving to the range, setting up, filming all day, using all that stuff, coming home, offloading the footage, editing, polishing everything, uploading it, and then promoting it to my audience. That should require a production fee. Like, I don't I don't pay my bills with free products that people send me. And for the most part, I don't want free product. Like I've got everything that I like and everything else could burn in a fire and I'm fine with that. So a lot of people, a lot of companies are getting better at it, I should say. But there are some that think that sending out a brand new gun for review is like doing content creators a favor. And it gets to a point where like that's not doing me a favor at all. I'm the one putting time and effort into showcasing this product for a specific outcome. Like if you know my videos, you know what type of quality content you're going to get. You could very easily send that to a new channel who would gladly accept a gun just to do their own style of content. So I wish more companies would step up to the plate and be like, "Hey, I love what you're doing. I'd love to become a sponsor of Sunday Gunday." And I'm not talking um, like only review what's a company like Smith and Wesson. Like I don't want to only review Smith and Wesson stuff because they're a
Right.
sponsor.
Mm-hmm.
But if and this is completely hypothetical, but if Smith and Wesson was like, "Hey, we love what you do. We'd love to become a sponsor," then maybe like put an ad spot in the beginning of the video. "Hey, this video is brought to you by Smith and Wesson. It's because of them that I'm able to continue to make these videos. So if you like them, check them out. They got some new stuff coming out, blah, blah, blah. And frame it as like a 60-second ad in the beginning of a video, as opposed to like, oh, I work under this brand now.
Right, right. And I do know some people just being in the firearms industry per se that have direct relationship, like ambassador relationships with companies like Smith and Wesson, which is
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting because you see them pull up with a new gun and you know exactly what they're going to pull out. It's the new Smith and Wesson. So
Right.
it's a little weird with the relationship that people do have. I don't know that I've ever seen a firearms commercial ever. However, I lie. I did see Smith and Wesson firearms commercial actually.
Yeah, they were the first that came to mind because they're big and they do a lot of that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Well, not to keep talking about old Smith and Wesson, who I publicly dogged out before. So hopefully this doesn't impact your relationship with them.
No, I love Smith and Wesson. I mean, there's very few gun companies that I won't associate with.
Well, fair enough. Um, that said, I are there some sort of is there some sort of law that stops gun companies from advertising on TV or on, I guess, on the
Probably.
internet? It's I don't think I've ever seen a YouTube commercial for like Glock, which they don't really need a commercial, but
No.
I'm
Yeah,
just
I don't there like definitely on YouTube, I would say that there's probably some policies in place where like
right.
YouTube doesn't want like, oh, new easy bodyguard came out and like you don't like YouTube's not going to put that ad on videos for the most part. Even on TV, I'm sure there's some laws that like just don't allow that. And that's kind of the world that we live in. And like you said, I don't know if I've ever seen like an advertisement for any gun company on TV, like ever. I just don't think that was a big marketing space. So that should be a huge reason why they want to compensate people like myself and other creators for their time and effort, because that's like primetime marketing. Like, yeah, they can get an ad in Recoil magazine and like paper print stuff, but who's gonna open up a magazine and be like, oh, look, this new gun came out, I'm gonna go buy that? Like, no, you want real feedback from real people,
Yeah.
especially people like myself. Like I said earlier, like people know so much about my life. They know what I like and don't like in firearms. So if your views on firearms line up pretty closely with mine and I say I like something, then chances are you're going to like it too. So
Hmm.
it's kind of a
Hmm.
niche type of marketing, but also I think it's insanely valuable. And yeah, I wish more companies would kind of understand that.
Yeah, no, it is really interesting to see because I was just speaking with another um, influencer per se who we were talking about it. We were talking about how at some of these major events, not industry events necessarily, but like how do you say like the conferences that you can go through for different associations.
Mm-hmm.
The age that you see there, the average age, is getting older and older, and it's almost like the 2A generation is dying.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing if someone were to look at your demographics, that your demographics skew a little bit younger than the average Joe Blow gun guy.
Yeah, definitely younger than most. Like that's why when I first started making gun videos on YouTube were Hickok 45, great dudes, love them. But like that's a very specific kind of video. You want to know everything about a gun, you go and watch Hickok shoot it, and it'll be a 45-minute static shot video, and you learn everything you want to learn. So when I
And you
took
get
like
to
the
see him hit
vlog
that gong.
aspect, yeah, as long as you can hit the gong. And then when I started doing it like vlog style, that's when I I was younger at the time, and my demographic definitely skews on the young side of the firearms community. So that's why I was able to get a lot of new people into firearms. And yeah, it's definitely valuable. Like I think when if a company is releasing a new product and they want to tackle a specific market, there are specific creators out there who are going to get to that market easier than others. If you're releasing a hunting rifle, like don't give it to me. I'll give my thoughts and opinions on it, but I'm not a hardcore hunter. Like there's definitely
Right.
people who are long range precision shooters who would do way better marketing for you than someone like myself. So
Right. It's almost like a waste of marketing money. And I wonder, and it's been said that the 2A industry space has a hard time hiring good marketing people. More or less, that's kind of what's been said. And it seems like that's true because it's like, okay, we're going to invest all this money in print, which is cool, but who's buying magazines these days? Like, for real. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
I mean, I'd love
If
to
you
be on the
took
front cover, but
yeah,
I don't know.
if you took that $30,000 that you're getting a full page ad in a magazine for and divvy that up between product and actually compensating people for their time and effort to create videos, like, dude, that would be huge.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where like an average person who's listening to this podcast, they get turned away from that stuff because they're like, oh, again, not throwing Smith and Wesson under the bus, and maybe it's the blue background that I'm looking at, but we'll just say Smith and Wesson. If Smith and Wesson gave Talon this new gun and paid him to make the review, of course he's going to say good things about it. So that's where like the whole shill and all of that negativity comes into play.
That's a fun word that gets thrown around with
It
for
gets
the
thrown
guys
around a
who
lot.
will get, especially for the guys who get a gun. Who's like, hey, they sent me this for review X, Y, and Z, and it's not a T&E gun, which it sounds like you may have gotten some of those, but that's not the only thing you've received
Yeah,
for
it's
testing.
super situational, like depending on the company that I'm working with and the time that we're working together.
Hmm.
But a lot of people would get turned like, so I can say full out, I don't think I've ever gotten paid for a review on Sunday Gunday, like ever.
And you feel like
I
maybe you should have, which
not even that I should have. Like if I agreed to it, I agreed to it. But I wish a voice like this. I wish there were companies that would hear something like this and be like, oh yeah, these guys are putting in a ton of time and effort into it. A lot of times, like a company will send a gun and then I got to pay for ammo, so I'm shooting 1,000 rounds for a video, and like that's all coming out of pocket. So,
yeah, we can't all
um,
be like Coleon, sponsored by Nosler.
yeah, yeah, man, it's tough. So yeah, I wish the whole mindset of like people being shills because they're getting paid to do stuff. Like it's one thing if a company is paying a content creator and they only say good things about it, but there are very few reviews where I don't say a single negative thing. Like even
Right.
if it's a gun that I truly love, I'll try to look at it from the bad side and be like, I love this thing through and through, but maybe it's not for everyone. Like if you're this type of shooter, you're probably not going to like it.
Hmm.
Or even if it's like a really small, minute detail, like I'll say like,
Yeah.
I don't really care for this, but it's not a deal breaker for me. So I try to keep everything as honest as possible. And yeah, it would be nice to be compensated, but it's still not stopping me. I still got a ton of videos on my plate, and
Yeah.
hopefully that changes in the future because as soon as companies realize that, then I'll be able to make more content and make better videos, higher production, and
Hmm.
do it more frequently.
Well, I mean, here's the facts: is you do have a burden of responsibility to give your audience who they trust you, right? Like they come to you, they watch your stuff on a weekly basis, two, three times a weekly basis, because they like you. They would like to get to know you. They trust your word, your opinion on stuff, whatever the stuff is. Hey, this
Yeah.
board's good. Okay, good. I'll invest my money. And I'm sure you've gotten that DM 1,000 times. Hey man, just picked up the new this knife. Hey man, I just got the one wheel. Hey man, just got this electric bike. Thanks for the recommendation. It's great. Or I just got this bike. I hate it. I can't believe you recommended it.
Yeah,
That must suck too.
I very rarely get that though because I'm honest about it.
Good.
Um, there are a few times where someone will buy something based off of my recommendation and they'll have an issue with it or something, and I'll definitely hear that.
Yeah.
But what it comes down to is that my experience with whatever I'm reviewing, whether it's a firearm, a skateboard, whatever it is, like in the moment of me filming that video, it's all cut dry. I mean, as honest as it could possibly be. So there have been some issues where I would go back and update video descriptions like, hey, this company I've heard has been screwing over customers and they've run into issues, and like these products are no longer as good as they once were when I said good things about it in this video. And I try to stay on top of that. So I very rarely get people that come from that angle, but the other angle, like, hey, you recommended this knife and I love it. Like that stuff's great. And I love to see that in my DMs and emails and comments.
That's so good, man. And I just to reiterate, I 100% agree. It's in my own best interest to agree, really. But I think just industry standard, if you go out and hire a video guy, at least in my area, you want him to do a day's worth of work, that's $1,000
Easy,
easily.
yeah.
Just one guy.
Speaking of it being in your best interest, I think there are a lot of smaller creators that are hurting everyone as a whole because they are doing stuff for free.
Hmm.
So I had this conversation with someone recently. I forget who it was or what like the whole gist of the story was, but like there is value to creating videos. If companies could make videos themselves that had a specific reach that they were looking for, they would do it. But and I'm guilty of this too. Like I'm still doing a lot of videos for free. I mean, all my gun videos basically. However, I am way more selective now with what I do. Like I'm only going to review a gun if it's something I truly want to review. Um, and then, like I talked about, like if I did put my production fee on videos, like, hey, it's going to cost me like a day worth of filming and range time, and then a day worth of editing to then promote it to my audience. Um, I could quote them at a specific price and they'll be like, oh, no, this guy over here will do it for free. So we'll just send it to the guy who will do it for free. That hurts everyone in the long run because that smaller channel that did it for free is eventually going to grow and they're going to get to a point where they're in kind of the position that I am. I'm like, why would I do this for free? Why would I work for free? And this is gonna sound like I'm complaining about money and stuff like that, and I'm not at all. Like I'm just
I
trying
mean,
to put the
speak your mind, dude.
information
This
out
is
there.
costly conversations. The facts of the matter is, you have a perspective on a thing, and I think people would do well to at least hear you out. So go
Yeah.
ahead.
So what I'm saying is like smaller creators who are doing stuff for free, I think they should sooner get into the business mentality of like, hey, I'm providing value and this is the value that I'm putting on it. I actually just saw a video on my phone earlier. Someone was talking about imagine you're going to a nightclub and to get into the club, it's $10 to get in at the door. If you don't pay $10, you're not going to get in. I feel like people should start doing that with content creation, unless it's something you really want to be associated with. Like there's still companies that I work with just on like a friendly relationship. But if you want to get into that club or if you want to associate your brand with mine, this is the fee. You either get in and we do something together or we don't straight up. So, and that's a hard thing to balance, especially when you do everything yourself like I do. Like I really wish I kind of had a manager or like a buffer in between me and the companies who could negotiate those deals because I don't want to come off as a bad guy saying like, hey, I'll work with you guys, but here's my production fee. Because then that company's going to be like, ah, oh, screw that guy. Like he's a dick or whatever. It would be nice to have a buffer in between there to have like a manager say like, hey, Talon is able to do it, but this is what it's going to cost him in time, effort, travel, like all of that stuff.
I mean, just at the end of the day, like you said, if it cost, I mean, Talon Sei is a name. You're kind of one of those big boy names. If it cost you money to make a video, that you'll probably never really see that money again. You're subsidizing with your main channel for what? You could just not make the videos. You could
Right.
just not do it. Like at the end of the day, like
Yeah,
what are you
I
doing it
don't
for passion?
I don't I'm doing it like the gun video specifically. I'm doing it because I am passionate about firearms. I love shooting them, but at the end of the day, like I have some videos on my plate right now that I don't have to post at all, but I'm doing it for the audience because people out there who watch my videos want more. They constantly want more, and it's free for them. So I feel like if I do eventually pick up more sponsorships, people who watch that should be stoked on that. It's like, yes, that company is supporting Talon and it's not costing me anything, but they're advertising on his channel. And that's awesome because that allows him to make more videos. I did recently start putting like 30 to 60-second ads at the beginning of my videos, especially on Sunday Gunday, just because, like I said, they cost a lot. And I've gotten little to no negative feedback from it, which has been great. I'm definitely being very selective with like the companies who want
Right.
to advertise there. Like it has to fit with the video. Like I'm not just gonna advertise like Raid Shadow Legends because I don't play video games, and I'm and I'm not throwing anyone under the bus by saying that, but that is a very huge YouTube
That's the
market that they're
thing. That's the
tackling.
thing. Well, I'm gonna just say this. I personally said, like, man, guys, like, especially to my Patreon supporters and whatnot, like the people who really support. And shout out to you guys, the Patreon supporters. Thank you so much. You guys make this possible. Um, I have been like, guys, help me to never have to hold myself out to raid Shadow Legends
Yeah,
because I don't want to have to sell mobile games. Like that's not what I don't care. I don't play mobile games. I'll play Xbox. Like if Xbox wants to sponsor me, like
yeah.
let's go. But like I don't play raid. Like I don't do all
And
that. Like
and no hate to that either because like
I mean
if
get your money, right? But
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if Raid came to me with a really big offer, there is a number that it would be hard to say no to. Like, hey, this doesn't align with me at all, but the fact that they want to advertise on my videos and they're giving me money to create more, there is a line that they would cross monetary wise where I would be like, all right, this video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. So like
I love it.
I'm not gonna say that I'm never gonna do an ad spot like that, but I would rather not because I feel like it cheapens the content overall.
Right. And so, I mean, the point being, the advertiser, it has to match. And I've run ads on my videos for smaller, specifically Black 2A brands, because that's kind of one of the young exploding markets. And I really want to be a part of making sure that this new generation of gun owners, the first generation gun owners,
Mhm.
gets a chance to support brands that have them specifically in mind, but also just there's a symbiotic relationship there. That's important to me. But it is interesting to see is like man there's the Brownells of the world, there's the Big Daddy Unlimiteds who I have a small relationship with, not anything too serious, and the amount of hey we'll pay you for this or and my channel is very small so I don't expect them to approach me for certain things, but it sounds like it doesn't really matter how big you get until you're literally hitting, Grand Thumb numbers or Colion numbers. Like, you might not, like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a hard balance to find. Like I'm constantly trying to figure out the balance because if a smaller brand approaches me, like I'm not going to expect a whole lot. But
Right, right,
if a huge brand approaches me, they're like, "Hey, we're releasing this new thing." I'm like, "Cool." Or even if it comes to events, like you're inviting me to this event, I'm not paying for my flight to get there and my hotel to cover your event. Like I'm sure it's going to be fun and there's a lot of cool stuff to do. You may be providing food and stuff like that, but I'm not gaining anything from going to that other than, yeah, it was a fun time, cool event. I got to shoot new things. That's that's
yeah,
very appealing to smaller creators, but I think last year I was in the position where I was just saying yes to everything because I was like, I don't want to miss out on any of this stuff. Like they're offering it, I'm going to go. This year, after doing that for a year, I've really taken a step back and now I'm being super selective with what I say yes to because I like my own personal time where I can use my time to make money. And if I take a week out of my life to go to some event, like SHOT Show as an example, I didn't go to SHOT Show this past year because I didn't see the value of me going. And
right.
I could spend that time working on other videos that will further progress what I'm trying to get towards. So it's
And you
hard.
have a great point there, especially because it's like, okay, for me, it is necessary for me to go because I need to create relationships and network and find people in this space. It's a business trip.
Yeah, and
However,
that's a good mindset to be in too, because like early on, if someone invited me, like yes, you got to go. And like I just said, I was doing them all last year. And I'm gonna tell you, continue to do that because it's great, man. Like once you make all these connections and you become friends with people at these companies, then you don't need to go. Then it's like I already know who's gonna be there, and like that's kind of how I was with SHOT Show. Like I'm very
right.
connected with everyone who I want to be connected with, and it would be nice to go hang out with people and to like keep those relationships going. But also, I'll just pick up the phone and like call someone.
it is interesting to know, like, I had people in my DMs and emails who are like, "Hey, we're gonna go to Shot Show. Are you going?" I'm like, wow, I kind of feel like I'm in the in crowd. It's kind of a weird feeling that company XYZ has shot me an email. Hey guys, we're gonna be at Shot Show. Whether it's a mass email or the direct DM from somebody's marketing manager. Hey man, I'm gonna be at Shot Show. You gonna be there, bro?
Yeah.
Like that's cool. However, at there comes a point, like you said, that those re- that kind of has its diminishing returns. Like, okay, you might see a cool gun that's like maybe never going to come out,
Yeah.
but the content could be your content. Your audience could be better served by you doing what works. And nobody really wants to watch your Shot Show video. I'm sorry, Talon. Like it's not that big a deal.
No one wants to watch any Shot Show video.
You're right. Nobody does. Like
It's like
it's the
all the
facts.
same. You'll
Yeah.
see the same thing in a million different places, and it just gets played out super fast.
Yeah, it's not great entertainment for people who aren't literally there. And something that I was thinking about today, or actually today and yesterday, I was like, man, I'm the type of guy who likes to say yes a lot. Like if someone's like, hey man, could you do this? I'm like, yeah, sure, I got you, bro. But like I need to tell myself not to feel so bad saying no, and to tell myself and to tell them when I'm saying no, like I'm not saying no, I don't like you. I'm just saying like I can't commit to doing this well, to doing this
Yeah.
to the standard that I would want to, while maintaining the other things. Like I've just had another baby, another little girl.
Oh, congrats,
Super
man.
blessed in that regards. Thank you, man. And I just can't commit to the same amount of things that I had 2 months ago. Like I just can't.
Yeah, and
So
that's where like I know we keep talking about money, but that's where money comes into play because like what you're doing, like it's not your daily thing. Like you have to make it make sense for you in the long run. So I'm still struggling with that. Like to this day, in 2 days from now, I'm going to dinner with a pretty large company who I would love to work with, not in the firearms world. So it doesn't really relate to everything, but they keep inviting me and giving me these opportunities to do a lot of this cool stuff. And initially, I was just doing it to one, build a relationship with the company and like be cool with them. But after I've done that for a while, I'm at the point now where they keep inviting me to stuff. And I'm like, hey, listen, I'm giving you guys all this value and I'm not getting anything in return. I'm not being compensated. I'm not even getting like free product or anything like that. So I have to have that conversation this coming week to say like, hey, I would love to continue working with you guys and help you out. However, this is a business. Like this isn't just fun for me. This is real life. This is what I do for a living, and I have to make like the correct choices to continue doing it. And that's a super difficult conversation to have.
right, because I mean, Talon's a business owner at the end of the day, and so am
Yeah.
I. In a sense, this is a smaller business, but at the end of the day, the balance books, the taxes, it's all business. And
Right.
at the end of the day, if we're writing off all these business expenses, so yeah, I went to Georgia, yeah, we went to Vegas, we went to Croatia for this event for some gun company. Okay, that's cool, but did you make any money? Because you can't write off stuff you never made. Like at the end of the
Right.
day,
Like, and that's where like it hurts because it's like, yeah, I want to write all this stuff off, but that's what it comes down to is you have to make a return on that investment, basically.
ROI.
You have to have an ROI to continue doing what you do and continue growing.
Man. Well, man, Talon, thank you so much for talking about that. I know we're a little bit over on time. I did want to talk about
I
the
got
the
plenty of
Glock.
time, man.
Well, I appreciate that. Let's talk about the new gun that you just dropped, and we'll call it at that.
Yeah. So I think June of 2 years ago, I was able to create and design almost from the ground up, like my own ideal concealed carry gun. Um, Years ago, when I first started Sunday Gunday, I was a customer of a company called Danger Close Armament. They're based out of here where I'm at now, Denver, Colorado. I was a customer of theirs. They did a really sick frame package for me. And then I built a Glock 19 with a bunch of other parts. And I made a video of that gun literally standing like in my family's house, like in my bedroom at the time. And I was like, this is a gun that I built. This is kind of like at the tipping point where Gucci Glocks like really took off, and it was like new and hot. So I was like, yeah, I had started this build. It took me a while, probably like a year, and I built this gun, and that was like my first viral video. A lot of people who know me today have probably seen that video, which is no longer online, but it had like 8.5 million views. And because I was just a customer of those companies, Danger Close Armament called me and they're like, hey man, we saw the video that you made and our phone's ringing off the hooks. Like, we'd love to build you another gun because we see the value that you've provided us. And I didn't ask them for anything for free. And I was like, yes, that is how companies should do it. Like, you saw what my marketing could do, when that was an anomaly. Like, that doesn't happen very often. So I let them build me another gun, and that's how we built a relationship. So I love all the work that they do, and I've been working with them basically since then when I was a customer. So fast forward to a point where we have a really good relationship, and I was at the shop one day and I was like, would you guys consider letting me like design my own slide, my own grip and everything? And long story short, it came to fruition as the TS19X. So
Wow.
I like the TS19, or I like the 43X as a carry gun, just a kind of full size feeling grip, high capacity,
Yeah.
or I should say standard capacity. So like Glock 19 if you're running shield mags, so 15 and 1, red dot ready. And I was like, if I could only carry one gun, it's going to be that. And it still is to this day. That was 2 years ago. I used to rotate carry guns a lot, which I don't recommend unless you train and shoot a lot. But I decided, I was like, I've tested a ton of guns. This is my ideal setup. So I napkin sketched out what I wanted the slide to look like, weight reductions, ports, serrations, everything. And they 3D rendered it, brought it to life. And we did our own custom stippling and everything. And we put them up for sale. We sold 50 in the first day. And this was
Golly.
like right at the time where COVID was happening, and
That's
it
right.
was super hard to source like anything. So after the first day, after the video went live, we were like, oh my gosh, we are in way over our heads. We let it run on for like another week or two until we hit 100 production guns sold. And we were like, that's it. We have to cap it. It's going to take the shop like 6 months to even produce all of these. So we individually serialized all of them. We had nice custom cases and everything. And that is a gun that today people still want me and Danger Close Armament to bring back, but it's difficult, especially in
Yeah.
today's like world with inflation and everything. So
Hmm.
that was the first gun. And then we recently upscaled that for the 19 platform. We did it soon after. So I've had a TS19 for,
Well, hold on just a second. So
yeah,
the
go ahead.
the previous gun, the one you put out 2 years ago, the 43X Talon
Yep.
Sei edition, did you make any money off that gun? Just I didn't
No.
think so because I know how much guns cost, and
Yeah.
it's way more than it feels like it should. I mean,
Even the shop made like hardly anything off of that. They made enough money to
that's
pay the
harsh,
employees to do it,
right?
but we had long discussions about this going into it. He's like, what do you want to make off of this? And I was like, honestly, this is just super cool, and it's kind of like a test run. So I just want to put them out there. Granted, it's a very niche market. Like it's an expensive gun with a lot of like it's a premium, not a Gucci gun, but Danger Close Armament builds guns for functionality more than anything, which is something that I truly like. So it's a super high performing EDC carry pistol that not a lot of people are going to see the benefits from unless you are putting a lot of rounds down range. And if you can actually benefit from having front forward slide serrations and different texture on the front and rear, like an average shooter could shoot my signature pistol and a stock 43X almost identical. But the more proficient you become as a shooter, the more you're going to reap those benefits of having a modified pistol.
All right. You said that one
So,
was ported as well,
no, that was not ported.
not ported.
We we put windows in the slide, like two
Hmm.
windows up
Just weight
front to
reduction.
reduce weight. But yeah, the barrel was not ported on that.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, uh, that was a big learning experience for myself and for the guys at DCA. We went into it. I basically said I don't want to make money off of this because I don't want to drive up the price just to make a couple bucks. I want
Right.
to make it fair for everyone. And like I said, I don't know the numbers for sure, but I know DCA didn't make like a ton of money off of selling those guns. If
Do you think
anything,
that's an industry issue, like overall, where companies really aren't making money, or do you feel like it really just more specifically your gun wasn't priced competitively enough for what it
so
cost?
if we would have priced it where we could have made money from it, it would have been a little bit higher. But like I said, I don't want to, I'm not going to price gouge people just to make a quick buck. Like I was stoked on doing it because it's something that I designed and it's something that I wanted. Like it's my gun.
Yeah.
And then DCA was on board with it because we didn't know how many we were going to sell. And they basically wanted to be a part of it to say, hey, we build Talon Sei's gun, and it's like a marketing thing for them.
Yeah.
So I didn't make any money. I also didn't lose money in any of it. DCA they didn't lose money, but they also didn't make like a ton of money. Like I said, they might have like broke even. By the time we were finished shipping the last couple of guns, anyone who ordered them was getting a screaming deal, like because the price of everything went way up and we didn't change the prices. If you were locked in at that price, you were locked in. So
Dang.
people were getting a fully customized 43X with a hard sided case, patches, and optic for like 2 grand, which in the scheme, like grand scheme of things now, that's unheard of. Like you
No,
can't really get
seriously.
that anymore.
Like you can, I would say you can buy a factory gun that's really, really good with some of that stuff for a little less, maybe. But
Yeah,
if you want to get something that's like fully custom, you're looking at 2 and 3 grand. You're looking at staccato money at that point. So
yeah,
choose.
exactly. And that's what makes it hard too, because the more you make something like a Glock more premium, the more it pushes that price point to more premium brands like
Mhm.
Staccato and like uh, Wilson, like all these really high end guns. And that's where it turns people away too. They're like, oh, why would I buy a $2,000
It's just
plastic
a
gun?
Glock, right?
Yeah, it's just a Glock.
A
And
Glock.
so it's a fine line to kind of navigate around.
I mean, but you move some products, man. You're officially an arms dealer. How do you feel?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Like I did not expect that. So real
Fast forward to the
short
19.
story.
No, go
What's
ahead.
that?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
We upscaled the 43 design for a 19. So now I have a TS 19.
Yeah.
And the TS 43X is like everyday carry gun. The 19 is sort of a do-it-all gun. You can carry it, leave it on your nightstand, truck gun. You could use it as a duty gun if you wanted to. So that was kind of the next natural progression for that.
Right.
But we released that 2 months ago now, and it's in a time where prices are even crazier. The gun industry, like there aren't a ton of people buying guns like there were over the past 2 years just because of everything going on. So it's definitely a harder sell, especially for a premium product like that. But yeah, that's the venture that we're kind of in now. And hopefully we can continue to produce the TS19s. Hopefully, well, I should also mention the 43Xs were a limited run. So there's only 100 of them. We're hoping that the TS19 we can leave as a legit production pistol now. So you're not going to get all the fancy extras like a custom case and everything, but we want to make them available for whoever wants one wherever down the line. And
Yeah.
then hopefully we'll bring back the 43X and maybe even venture into like a full size 17 or something along those lines.
Yeah, no, I mean, the 17 would be super cool. I actually got a chance to shoot one of my guys, Texas Totem. Hopefully, the video's out by the time this drops. We got to shoot a few guns, a B&T Mark II. We got to shoot his, I think it was an XE, a Staccato XE, a Archon Type B, and his fully custom Glock 17. It looks kind of like a Dragon ported,
Yeah.
everything. Like this thing is insane. Like it breathes fire from the top because of the
Yeah. Yeah.
ports. I'm just like, what is going on? To be honest, like I liked shooting it more than any other gun that he had. The $2,000 and $3,000 guns. It's a fully custom Glock 17. It's a Glock.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. Like it at the end of the day, like it's a Glock, and I understand why that turns people away. I 100% understand. But until you get something like that in your hands, like it all comes down to personal preference. Some people are gonna like shooting a staccato more than they're gonna like shooting a souped up Glock. But also, if you're that type of person, like, man, I love Glocks. I love all guns, but if I had to choose my platform, it is Glock. And that's just what I trust my life with every day. So,
Yeah, Glock is kind of like the Apple of the gun world in a sense. Like there's
yeah,
so many options for it. Apple or Android, really, because you can, well, more Apple in the sense that there's an iHome, there's a this, there's that, there's a cross compatibility with all their products where you can take one magazine from one gun. And it may just run in your gun, like provided that it's similar in kind of the way it's built,
yeah,
and just the holster support alone.
it's huge.
Like
That's the first holster that anyone makes is a Glock 19 holster.
right. I mean, the Glock 19 holster is compatible with about 4 or 5 other guns. Like anytime you see a 19, it's got 3 or 4 other tags right on it, just so you know that it can run your 34 as well.
Yep, 34, 17, your 19X, your 45, like all that.
It's crazy. But man, Talon, best of luck to everything that you're doing, bro. I'm
Thanks.
excited to see kind of like the next evolution, what it's going to look like in this next year and, coming years, especially you getting more and more into the business side and having those serious, costly conversations. And hopefully it's less costly to you and more beneficial, rather. You sitting
Yeah,
down and just being real with people and letting people know what it is.
for sure. Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's the money thing is not going to stop me from making gun videos, but if companies do step up to the plate and like follow suit with some of these companies that are doing a good job, then it'll be way easier for me to make more content and do it more frequently too. So I'm hoping that's the case, and maybe I'll get back to making a Sunday Gunday video every single week. So
Hey,
we'll
man, I
see.
mean, if it makes sense, right?
If it makes sense, I'll make it happen. It's a lot of time and effort and stress, but I'll do it, man.
Well, man, bro, thank you so much for coming on. Hopefully, the audience can has gotten to this point. And if you've gotten to this point in the video, please make sure you like, comment, subscribe, all the fun YouTube stuff. And if you're listening on podcast, of course, leave a review if it's on Apple, or send me a DM if you thought this episode was interesting. If you want to hear from guys like Talon a little bit more, bro, thank you so much for coming on. Did you have anything else you needed to get at before we hop off?
Oh man, that was it. Thanks for having me, and I'll be happy to do this again maybe next year and have
Hey,
something else to report.
hey, I'm down, bro.
Sounds
Thank you
good.
so much, man.
Thanks,
Keep
man.
it costly, bro.
You too.